Let your spirit run free along the old Black Nile.
And hey, good afternoon, Washington, D.C. This is Tony Browder for this edition of the Browder File Show. This is October, and October is a month that confirms the value of finding your voice and standing on your square. The square is your base, your foundation, the launching pad from which you soar into the stratosphere to spread a global message, transforming hearts, minds, and souls. As a child growing up in Chicago, I was socialized to see October the 12th, Columbus Day, as a day of celebration, a day to commemorate Columbus's discovery of America, an event which transformed the world for better and for worse. The world was better if you were a European explorer, discovering new worlds to conquer and new people to exploit. The world was worse if you were the discovered and the exploited. After 500 years of unimaginable oppression, indigenous people began discovering their voice and standing on their square. They began singing and writing stories that changed their world and influenced the world of others. Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, for example, was an indigenous man of African ancestry who grew up in the jungles of Guyana, the colony formerly known as British Guyana. And it's worth noting at this point that Guyana is the only English-speaking nation south of the U.S. border. Every other country, that is Central America and South America, speaks either Spanish or Portuguese because of what Columbus set in motion over 500 years ago. When Van Sertima wrote They Came Before Columbus, the African Presence in America, he revealed a suppressed history of a time when Africans came to these shores 2,500 years before Columbus. These Nilotic Africans shared their technology with the indigenous population, which created conditions favorable to both peoples. As the voice of indigenous people grew louder and stronger, they began influencing the consciousness of a dominant population. And eventually, Columbus Day gave way to Indigenous Peoples Day. Well, today we're here to celebrate the value, the virtue, and the valor of finding your voice and standing on your square. My guests today are two songstresses whose musical stylings create a sonic soundbath that soothes the soul and heals hearts. They're both daughters born to turn struggle into triumph while transforming minds and spirits. My guests today are free BenJamin and Ayanna Gregory. Good afternoon, sisters. How are you?
Good afternoon, Karak. We're great. How you doing?
Good
I'm
afternoon.
well.
Yes,
I'm well. It's good to see both
we're
of you
excited
all.
to be here with you.
It's so
Well-
good to see you, Baba.
Likewise. You are two of my favorite people. I don't mind saying that, and I hope the other favorite people who I said were my favorite people aren't offended. But
Boomerang.
but I'm
We feel
allowed
the
to
same
have
way.
favorites. Yes, indeed. So I'm glad to have you all on the show. And what's special, as I was talking about October, is that both of you all are Libras. Both of
Yeah.
you all have birthdays in the month of October. And you're going to be celebrating this weekend, right? You're going to be
Yes,
celebrating big time this
Big
weekend.
time.
Okay. Well, you got some activities coming up. And well, before we get into that, let's just spend a moment or two talking about each of you individually. I mean, both of you all have a reputation in the DC area specifically as being singers, and not just singers, but songstresses who bring a special dimension of soul and healing and spirit in your works. So what's the motivation for that? Because you don't just sing just to sing, you sing to transform souls, as I mentioned. Ayanna, how did you get involved in singing and not comedy or health or something else that, one would have thought that you would have gravitated towards?
Singing was a gift that came to me early. I just didn't know that it was going to be such an integral part of my way of life. When I was young, I thought it was a hobby, and I just didn't know how powerful of a gift it was. I didn't know how healing it was. It wasn't until I came to Howard University, came to DC, went to Howard, graduated from Howard, and I started working with in the schools after I graduated. And, I was thinking like, at that time, kids, they all had a Walkman, and they
You're dating yourself now. A
yeah,
Walkman.
exactly. And I remember as teachers and after school counselors, we'd be trying to get the headphones off their heads so that they could pay attention to whatever the lesson was. And I was like, I'm trying to get in their headphones. And I just thought that will be probably the most powerful way I can meet young people. So young people and my own healing journey were probably the two biggest influences around, I would say 2 out of 3 influences around why I chose music and the kind of music. In terms of the kind of music, that has everything to do with the family I came up in, coming through the lineage of Lillian and Dick Gregory. I knew early on that my gift of song would be my gift to the liberation movement. And so it all just kind of came together, and I realized you don't have to make it difficult. Do what you do best. You don't have to go out and find a job doing something you hate doing. This is a gift you were given. So let this be your life work. And then it just became such a sacred healing journey. And then we came in contact with people like Brother Ah and Dr. Ivy Hilton, and they began to teach more about the science and the sacredness of sound vibration and all of that. And it just, from there, it just took off.
Sure. Well, it's important too when you talk about the liberation struggle of the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and now 2000s. One of the galvanizing forces for motivating people to meet and to march was music.
Yes.
Music set the tone. It leveled the souls and gave them something to do in unison and kept them in step as they were moving. So yeah, I get it. Your
That is so
talent.
powerful.
Well, Sister Free, now you're known as an artist, right? A visual artist, and you have an outstanding reputation for having done some incredible work for numerous people in the area. And but you have a phenomenal voice, right? And I just learned, I think last year, that you taught yourself to play the guitar, right? So
Yes.
tell us about that journey.
Well, as far as music is concerned and singing is concerned, when people ask me how long have I been singing, my answer is always, I don't remember not singing. I grew up in the Baptist church and was on the choir, and we had a piano, and I actually wrote my first song on that piano. And I've been in several bands in DC. When I got connected with 2000 Black and Mamadi Nyasuma, my cultural music journey began to blossom. My music has always been about love. I feel like that was birthed in me. From the very beginning. I feel like all of my songs were spiritual and soulful. And when people ask, what genre of music do you do? And I just say soul music, spiritual music. It doesn't necessarily have to be reggae, R&B, classical. It's just good music and soul music that comes from my soul. And we first started singing with 2000 Black.
Yeah.
In 93, I think. Yeah. And when I got my first guitar, which was in 2004, that's when I felt like I said, I've been singing all my life, but that's when I felt like I found my voice. When I began writing songs and hearing them the way that I would express it, not necessarily hearing it the way some other artists wanted me to sing their song or trying to imitate an artist in a band.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got the first guitar, I really had no intention of necessarily writing songs. That particular year, my Gregory sister Lynn, we were on the phone and she was playing guitar. She was playing literally 2 chords. And I was like, oh man, it's so beautiful. Can you please put it on a tape and send it to me? And the next day, I never got the tape, mind you. But the next day, Ayanna said, what do you want for your birthday? I was like, a guitar. But I really wasn't serious. And that's when I got my first guitar.
Okay.
And it was an instant love affair.
That's a fact.
That is still going strong today.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Ayanna, you mentioned 2 very influential musicians here in the DC area, Brother and Ivy Hilton. And both of them have always expressed the sonic vibration or the energy in the music, right? And you all have done these sound healing activities for people. I was the beneficiary of one a while back, and Akron Lynch was the beneficiary of another. What is this sound bath, the sound vibrational thing? How did that come about, and what are some of the healing qualities associated with bathing someone in sound vibration?
Well, I feel like it started when some of our friends and loved ones were in the hospital, and we were just like, let's make them feel better. Let's just do some music. And so I remember when Brother Bay, rest in power, Brother Bay,
Yes,
was
indeed.
one of the times that he was in the hospital. We played for him, and other, friends and folks in the community. And then, times when we would go and play and sing for people in the hospital, people on the floor, other patients would be like, what's going on?
And the staff.
And the staff, can we just send oh, we feel so much better, or breathing better. And we thought, I think this is something bigger than what we think it is.
Yeah.
And then just being in the presence of people like Brother Ah and people like Dr. Ivy, we started to learn more around, how the keys, the different keys that correspond to the different chakras of the body, the different hertz, the different frequency hertz that really affect different parts of the body. And then just experiencing it ourselves, like, wow, I feel calmer, or I feel energized, or I started to feel this like buzzing feeling in my body. My fingers started to vibrate and started to feel like this radiating vibration buzzing through my body. I said, well, I can't make this up. This is real. And then when we began to, it was like each iteration, each time we sat with somebody, something else was given to us. So it was like, oh, then we'll add aromatherapy, or then we'll start doing touch therapy. We already knew, we had learned Reiki. And so we thought, oh, okay, Free's playing the guitar while she's playing the guitar and singing. I'll go around and begin to do Reiki and, body work on whoever the person is, or sometimes, in the group settings. So each time it was like another iteration. And then I started to, we would always pray. We would call on the creator and the ancestors to come through. And in doing that, it took it to another level, because then we just became open vessels for the universe and the creator to do their work. And so oftentimes there would be sounds coming out of me. I didn't know where those sounds were coming from. And then someone would say, oh, these are very, indigenous sounds to this land. Couldn't make it up. I just knew I had to be obedient to what was coming out of me. And I knew that the sounds were affecting me. So then I started taking people's hands, both of us, and putting their hands to my throat, or their hands to their own throat, so that they could hear when they would say om and ah and all of these healing sounds that show up in every indigenous society, so that they could feel the power of their own vibration. and we would say words and affirmations and say, look, everything that comes out of your mouth is an affirmation. You get to choose what kind of affirmation it is. So it was something that grew and grew. Before we knew it, I was like, this is powerful.
Right.
This is powerful.
And then I also had the opportunity for 2 years to play at the Shaw Nova Cancer Center in Fairfax. And the patients, they would come up to me and say, thank you so much. What you just did made my entire day. And they would ask questions like, when did you start doing music therapy? Did you have to go to school for it? And for us, it's not about something that you had to learn. It's about frequency and about feeling, you know?
And being the vibration through which those frequencies and those feelings come through. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. You know, you want to say something, Ayanna?
Something just came to me. One time we were in Jamaica and we were at Jackie's on the Reef in the Grill, who we absolutely adore. And, you know, Jackie, who has a powerful healing retreat on the cliffside in the Grill. And she allowed us to do these musical healing sessions for some of her guests. And so if a guest signed up to get, you know, Reiki or some energy work, that Jackie would say, well, I have two women here. They're like my daughters and they offer this. Would you like it? And so this one particular woman, she had just been divorced. She was experiencing a lot of loss. And so we talked to her a little bit just to kind of get a sense of where she was. So we do the session with her. It was very powerful. You know, we're out in nature, right off the water in the Caribbean Sea, on the cliffs. And you know, it was very emotional. She shed a lot of tears. She released a lot. And I kept saying to her, you are not alone. You are never alone. You're not alone. And that just was kind of like the guiding mantra in that particular session. And I just remember when we finished, you know, she was crying and we wanted to give her time. So Free, of course, was typically, you know, when she's playing the guitar and singing. So when she's playing the guitar, she can't touch the person. I can. But then when she finishes, she puts the guitar down and then we embraced her. We both embraced her. And then we walked away to give her a little space before we briefed with her, before we kind of checked back in and say, you okay? And we just heard her crying and crying and crying. And then when we came back in, as her eyes were closed, she was laying down the whole time. When we came back in, she said she felt multiple hands on her, healing hands on her. But when she opened her eyes, we were no longer in the room. And so she said, when she thought about the mantra, you are never alone, you are never alone, you know, at a time where she felt so much loss, she was overwhelmed with emotion, like, wow, I'm really never alone. And it was powerful. We didn't know, you know, it was like powerful ancestral spirits and energies enter the space, and we just say, let's just hold space for it, you know.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Let our listeners know that you're listening to the Browder File Show, and the voices that you are hearing are the voices of Ayanna Gregory and Free BenJamin, and we're talking about songs, we're talking about energy, we're talking about vibration and the healing forces that they emanate within spaces. You know, as you both were talking, I remember well over a decade ago when I received a phone call from Brother Ah that a mutual friend of ours had a stroke and was in the hospital, and that they were dying, and that if I wanted to say my goodbye, I needed to come down to the hospital right away. And I got there and saw some other folks from the community there around the bedside of this brother, knowing that he was going to be leaving us soon, very soon. And as we stood there, you know, Joni was there, and several other folk were there. Singor was there, Brother I was there, of course, and somebody, I don't remember who it is, and part of me wants to say it was Brother Bay, but I can't confirm that right now. Started humming and chanting, and then Brother I brought out his flute. and then everybody else just chimed in and was chanting whatever the chant was as the music was playing in the background. And we all just felt as though we were putting our hands on the body of this brother that was about to leave us. But we were preparing him or preparing his soul to go off into the beyond with a light heart, with a pure heart, so that they can face the unknown without fear, right?
Yeah.
And that's when, that was the first time I'd been in the presence of someone as they made their transition. And that's when I physically began to understand that death does not have to be something that's sad, something that's sorrowful, right? If you do it the right way, and if you're in the company of the right people, then we can do for the soul of that person what we're supposed to be doing, and that is to open the doorway for their soul to transition into the next life. So, I at that moment came to appreciate the power of music, and watching what the two of you all, have done over the years is a confirmation that you two have that gift, you have that talent, and that you're sharing it with the general community as a means of giving us a soothing balm that is needed to help us negotiate these very challenging and very difficult times. And that's what makes you two so special to me, because you have a gift, you have a power that very few people publicly acknowledge. But at this moment, I want to acknowledge your power and thank you for sharing your gifts with us, because we need them now more than ever. So I appreciate you both.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And can I also say, based on what you just said, there's so much reciprocity in this work.
Truly.
It's like when we're giving, we are also receiving.
Truly. Truly, truly, truly.
So tell us now about Libra Love. Libra Love, the double L, and the Soundbath event. Tell me about that. Tell our listeners about that.
First of all, I feel like it's all about love. Okay.
That's how we end every show with Maurice White singing. It's all about love. So thank you for validating that.
First words in one of my songs called Love Heals.
Mm-hmm.
And I just said to Ayanna, I think it was yesterday or today, I don't remember, but I was like, dang, I feel like everybody I know is a Libra, because every time I turn around, it's like Libra, 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 Libra. Atlantis. Yes.
Yep.
And Libra Love, is this our third one? I think this might be the third one that we've done in Libra season. And just to give back to the community, the sound healing that we give all year round. And it's, like I said, it's a gift to us as well. Libra Love. And Libra Love is happening this Friday at the Brentwood Arts Exchange in Brentwood, Maryland. It's at 3901 Rhode Island Avenue in Brentwood, Maryland. It starts at 8 p.m. Folks can get tickets at the door, or they can go online and Google Listening Room Presents Ayanna Gregory and Free BenJamin. Listening Room Presents Ayanna Gregory and Free BenJamin. And we are so looking forward to just feeling the love and giving the love. It's at 8 p.m. 8 p.m.
Can you give us a preview of the evening and what will it entail? Without giving too much away, right? See you looking at each other like you got a surprise or something up your sleeve.
Okay. Okay. This is a piece. It's not something we're gonna do on Friday, but it's a song that takes us back to probably one of the first a cappella pieces we've done together. And it's the Tanzanian and South African Azanian anthem. And the first verse is in Kiswahili, the second is in Zulu and Xhosa,
Mm-hmm.
And the words mean God bless Africa so that it can progress. Bless us. Come Spirit, come Holy Spirit, bless us, we the children of Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Where you at?
Where you at? Okay. Mungu ibariki Afrika ili ipate kuendelea. Maombi yetu yasikilizwe, uje utubariki, uje utubariki, uje Roho, uje Roho, uje Roho. Roho, utubariki, uje utubariki, enkosi sikele, malu hakan Yesu ponduluayo, izwa imitanda yetu, enkosi sikelela. Dina lusapo ayo, wozamoya, 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 wozamoya. Iwele usisikelela, Dina lusapo ayo.
All right, all right, all right. Now, I can't say for certain how clear the audio was as you all were singing, because you know Zoom, if you don't have the settings correct, the sound sometimes drop off. But what I saw was beautiful, was lovely, was phenomenal, and I know that what you're going to be sharing on Friday evening, will be phenomenal as well. So let's move forward. Now, I think, Ayanna, did you just turn your audio up some?
I
Because I'm hearing,
actually, you know what I did? Does it sound different?
yeah, because I was hearing some feedback. Yeah,
I
was hearing.
turned it, it was on live audio, live performance audio off, and I just turned it to on.
Okay.
Was it better
Well, do me a
before?
favor and turn it off, because I'm hearing feedback, and so I don't know
Okay, it's off now.
if our audience. Okay, that's better. I don't hear the feedback anymore.
Good to know.
So yeah, getting these little nuances is an art in and of itself. But
Oh, no.
you all always bring some incredible harmonies that like just influence the room and shift spirit and all that good stuff. And you know what it reminds me of? I share this with you. You know, you all both know that I spent a lot of time in Egypt and spent a lot of time reconstructing the tomb of Karakomen. And at one point, as I was walking through that space and we had partially reconstructed his tomb, there's columns, or excuse me, there's pillars in his tomb, and the pillars and the walls all have writing on them, right? And there's images at the top of each pillar, and everything is painted with different colors. So it was a vibrant space when it was brand new. And the idea was that the soul of Karakomen, or the priests and priestesses who came there to participate in certain activities and rituals, walked down or marched down this central axis. And I couldn't help but feel, when this space was new, that the sonics in that space must have been incredible. And the words on the walls were probably activated or enhanced by music, right? By people singing. You mentioned during some of the activities that you do, you burn incense. So by having incense in the space, then all of those vibrations open up your chakras and enhance your spirit and energize you, such that whatever you do it with more intensity. You do it with more life force. You do it with more ashe. And I couldn't help but feel that that's what you all are doing in real time. You know, whenever you perform, you're encapsulating that same energy, that same power. And so in that regard, that spirit, those ancestral spirits are not gone. They're with us right now, and they work through souls that are best prepared for them to work through, so that that energy, that consciousness, that vibration could be made accessible to anyone who's capable and ready to receive it. So that's, you know, that's so important to know. It's so important to know that the two of you all, I think, were born to do this, right? And it's just something that you grew into. It was something you were born to do, and you grew into when the time was right. And now you're soaring, and now you're flying. Look, let me ask you this too. I've known both of you all long enough to know that you both are daddy's girls, right? And I got a daddy's girl. And
Yeah, for
how
sure.
has that motivated you to do the work that you both have done in your individual lives and collectively?
You wanna go first?
As you know, my dad became an ancestor almost a month from now. November 12th was the day that he transitioned. And I definitely know that I'm more like my dad than I am like my mom. And my dad has always been a real support for me, a real support system. Always let me and my sister know that we could do anything that we wanted to do. We could count on him. And right now, I'm still doing that by the grace of God and the spirit of the ancestors. I will be doing that until I take my last breath.
Your father.
And that's an inspiration for me.
Good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And let's just think about, like, your father was at every show.
My father, I saw
He was
pictures
at every show.
like from the 90s, 80s.
He didn't miss it.
He was
never
right
missed it.
there.
He was right there.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
And he wasn't no singer now. He wasn't no singer. So he can't be everything else.
Mhm.
Yes.
And
And the Baba was my godfather.
Okay.
And our birthdays are, my birthday is on the 11th and his birthday is on the 12th.
Mm-hmm.
And he's
And
always
Ayanna's is on the 21st, right?
The
20th.
20th, yeah.
20th. I'm sorry, the 20th. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all that energy is there.
It's there. Yeah, my father, I definitely feel like I'm probably more like my dad. And I definitely have his fire. I feel it come through me very intentionally. And I talk to him all the time. And as before he transitioned, in the last maybe 15 years before he transitioned, our relationship shifted into him really watching me. I mean, he also, if he was in town, he didn't miss anything that we did. And he was very intentional about pulling me aside and saying, this is what I need you to work on. And this, I need you to work on your craft daily. And I need you to hone in on this and understand how the spirit works. And he was just very, he was real, there were times where he'd say, hey, champ, I need you to get over here right now, So when things came to him, they downloaded messages that he had for me or whoever. It was very urgent. He moved with a sense of urgency in that way. And so I just, and that's why, if I could take a moment to talk about a month ago or so, I woke up and I was like, I'm about to do a tour in his honor, and we're going to call it Walking in My Father's Footsteps. And it felt like, okay, this is what you do anyway, but I want to do it more intentionally, because everywhere I go, everywhere I go in the country and around the world. My father has been there multiple times, and he's left breadcrumbs. He's left things for me, you know? And so sometimes I'll go somewhere and they'll say, well, your dad sat, we'll be backstage and say, this is the chair your dad sat in, or this is and I'll just feel it, you know, I'll be like, okay, well, I'll call him into the space and I know he's there. And so I said, when I went to not Greenwood, Jackson, Mississippi for Medgar Evers' 100th heavenly birthday, I met a brother named Hezekiah Watkins, who was the youngest, he's an elder now, but he was the youngest freedom rider. He was 13 years old in Mississippi, the youngest freedom rider. But he told me so many stories, and he was like, yeah, when your dad came and when he flew the plane in to feed the people who the racist government was trying to starve the people, and do everything in their power to stop Black people from voting, those folks who were on assistance, they were blocking the food. And Dick Gregory was like, oh, I'm about to fly in a plane full of food and we're gonna ride this thing out. And he said, you probably know that, but he said, but maybe you did or didn't know that when your dad got off the plane and they were getting all the food together, they got these donkeys, these mules, and they hitched up these wagons to the mules, and then the donkeys, just these mules rode out for miles and miles throughout the Mississippi Delta, just giving out food in the deep country. And he was almost in tears, and I was almost in tears. And so I thought to myself, everywhere I go, I hear these stories. I hear these stories about my dad and just about the elders and all that they did, all that their lives meant over the 50, 60, 70, 80 years. And so I said, I want to do something where I can document it and also do what I was born to do. You know, I'm not a comedian like my dad. I can't do what he did, but I have my gift in the tradition of Lillian and Dick Gregory. So I said, we're going to do a tour called Walking in My Father's Footsteps. We started the tour last Saturday in Queens, New York at the Black Spectrum Theater. And then the second stop is on my father's birthday, day after your birthday, October 12th in Chicago at the ETA Creative Arts Foundation Theater. I have never done this play on my father's birthday before. I wanted to do it in Chicago because, of course, as you know, that's where our family started. That's where my mom and daddy met. That's where we was born, Hyde Park, South Side. And I was like, we about to do this. So yeah.
And don't let me fool you. There's some comedy in there too.
Oh well, I know. I've seen the play.
Yes, you brought it places. I mean, when you brought it down south to the
to Selma, to
the
Selma,
and to
the children's
Knoxville, Tennessee, the
Children's Defense Fund. That's right. Children's
yes.
Defense
Oh yeah,
Fund. Alex Haley Farm.
You had your hands on this play.
Okay.
You just brought it a few places.
Well, let me share a story that you may not know. That I was a youngster. I was a teenager. And my mom took me to a fundraiser for Dr. King that your father was headlining. And it was downtown Chicago. It might have been at Roosevelt University, Roosevelt Auditorium. And that was the first time, and I must have been about 14 or 15 at the time. I had just started high school. My mom took me down. And this is when Dr. King was bringing his message to Chicago, because he tried to integrate Marquette Park on the near south side of Chicago. And those white folk drove him out. And I remember Dr. King saying that he's faced all kinds of racism in the South, but he never faced racism like he experienced on the south side of Chicago. I remember that. But at that event, they were honoring Dr. Clark, they were raising money, and your dad was doing what your dad does. I mean, he was cutting up. And that was my first real taste of what it meant to be formally introduced to the struggle. And being a young person, I began to understand what discrimination was, what racism was. And living in Chicago at that time, which, while I was growing up, Chicago was known as the most racially segregated city in the United States. And I've got stories that I can tell, but it's so good for you to honor your father on his birthday in Chicago, where he first, made it big as a comedian at the Playboy Club.
Yes.
And as you said, met your mom, and most of you all were born. So that's going to be a phenomenal occasion. Tell our listeners, and let me tell our listeners first that you're listening to the Browder File Show, and you're listening to Free BenJamin, and you're listening to Ayanna Gregory. And Ayanna, tell us about this one woman play that you have, and what hopefully people who are listening to this program who live in Chicago will be in for that afternoon.
Okay. So the play is called Daughter of the Struggle, and it's about growing up as a child of the civil rights movement, of the human rights movement, of the liberation movement. So it's about my father's life. It's about my mother's life, you know, this unsung hero that the world never knew about, but she was there as a rock, you know, taking care of my father, taking care of us, and putting her life on the front line as well. And it's about the children in our family. It's about, you know, there's 10 of us, there was 11 of us, and I'm the second to the youngest. So I'm sharing my stories, but I'm also sharing my big brothers and sisters' stories. I'm sharing the stories of my sisters, Lynn and Michelle, when in Chicago, they were marching against racist Mayor Daley. And they were 6 and 4 years old, you know, and so I embody my sister Lynn as a little girl, and I tell the story of them marching from her child perspective of and the fear of being thrown into a police car. And as a little girl saying, what did we do wrong? I know police means you did something wrong. What does this mean? And her, you know, negotiating that within her child self and being reassured by my mom, like, we're going to be okay. So it's telling those stories. It's telling the stories of my sisters, Paula and Zenobia, when they were 14 and 13 in Greenwood, Mississippi, marching. And, you know, just typical teenagers, you know, thinking they just gonna have fun and show off marching. And next thing you know, they're faced with the Ku Klux Klan, and they're faced with armed soldiers with guns pointed at them. And it was like a coming of age moment for them. And so I embody my sisters in those moments. I embody my father, I embody my mother, I embody people who I've met around the world who have told me stories about my father and how he has affected them. I talk about my father's relationship with Medgar Evers and Fannie Lou Hamer and Dr. King. And so it's all of these powerful stories being told. And I just embody different people. You know, I you know, impersonate people from all around the world who share their stories about my father. And so it really, you know, it's musical. It's, you know, I'm singing, of course. I'm moving, I'm dancing. You know, there's moments where I'm embodying the reality that we grew up in. FBI, phone taps, death threats, assassination attempts on my father's life, how we as children negotiated with that reality, and how daddy always told us that fear and God don't occupy the same space.
Yep.
So through it all, we felt invincible. So it's that story. And then it takes us to the present to say, we are the continuum of that legacy. And who do we get to be now as connected to the Most High and connected to our ancestors who are just waiting for us to say, to call on them so that they can assist us from the other side in this powerful work, and to remain steeped in a love vibration throughout it all. Like all of that the play is really is about that. And it's also about bringing generations together, because when we do the talk back afterwards, you got elders in the room who are emotional because they lived through the movement. You got young people looking at their elders like, why are you so emotional? You never told me this story. So it's an opportunity to say, elders, tell your story. And, you know, for young people to really listen to that wisdom and understand, like, I come from this. This wasn't just about me learning about Dr. King or this, or Malcolm X or Rosa Parks or Fannie Lou Hamer. This is a part of my history. I'm seeing my auntie, my great auntie, my grandmother, my father teary-eyed, but a lot of times they didn't share, some of them didn't share those stories.
Yeah.
And so the play is really about all of that.
Right. And, you know, Dr. Clark often said that all history is a current event, and we're seeing history repeat itself right now.
Yes.
I just heard on the news before my show came on, listening to PFW News, that 200 National Guardsmen from Texas, of all places, are in Chicago now. I spoke with my aunt who lives in where does Grace live? Right outside of Chicago, uh, where people in that community have confronted ICE. It's the ICE headquarters, and there was a confrontation at ICE headquarters. So times really haven't changed. The only thing that's changed is the date on the calendar. So your play is reminding people of how you fight oppression, how you stand up to oppression, and there is no place for fear as you're engaged in this fight. Let me share one more story with you before we begin to wrap up, and that is that it was your daddy who influenced my decision to become a vegetarian, and that on this Sunday, October the 12th, I will celebrate my 50th year not eating meat or chicken. So
Wow.
I graduated from Howard in
Kudos.
'74, and your dad published his second book in 1974. It was called Dick Gregory's Diet for Folk Who Eat, Cooking with Mother Nature, right? And I remember reading that book, and I had friends. I was starting to hang around people who were vegetarian. And I'm, coming from Chicago, I was used to eating spare ribs and pork and all of that stuff. Well, reading your dad's book, and he was talking about the benefits of being a vegetarian, not eating meat. And a lot of that information he learned from Sister Alvenia Fulton on
That's
the
right.
South Side, right? Who schooled him. And I remember reading in that book, Dick saying that the baddest animal in the jungle is the gorilla, and the gorilla is a vegetarian, right?
Mm.
The baddest animal walking on land is an elephant, and the elephant is a vegetarian. The largest animal on earth is a whale, and a whale is a vegetarian. So you don't have to eat meat to get your power, to get your strength. And he just kind of made it plain. And it was reading that information and absorbing other information that I was exposed to at that time that helped me make that decision to stop eating meat and to move forward following a path that your dad, I'm proud to say, your dad opened this door for me. So yeah, these benefits just keep on going.
It's a
Yes.
blessing.
Just keep on going.
What a
So
blessing.
for those who are listening, and I just got a text from somebody who told me that no, Atlantis is not Maywood. It's not Maywood because Grace doesn't live in Maywood. It's the other city. So text me that information. But I just got a text from somebody who told me they purchased a ticket. Now I don't know if they purchased a ticket for this Friday or they purchased a ticket for Sunday. But give our listeners, because of the fact this program is heard all over the country and all over the world, tell folk about Sunday's event, where
Okay.
it's going to be held, and how they can attend.
Okay. So I'll be doing Daughter of the Struggle on Sunday, October 12th, this Sunday coming up, which is my father, Dick Gregory's birthday. And it's going to be at the ETA Creative Arts Foundation Theater. And so they can, for information, for tickets, they can go on to etacreativearts.org. And art, there's an S on the end, plural.
Mm-hmm.
etacreativearts.org. And they can get tickets that way. And the show starts at 3:00.
3 o'clock. Three.
Yeah, 3:00.
Okay, three. Excellent. And then you're going to have a talk back afterwards.
Yep.
Good. So I spread the word. I shared the word with family and friends, and I know a couple of friends are going to be there. Families are going to be there. So I would love to have them participate in the talk back, and I hope they introduce themselves to you so they can get a chance to meet two of my dearest sweethearts. And
Yay.
my Aunt Grace lives in Broadview, Illinois. So that's the ICE headquarters, which is a suburb, a western suburb of Chicago. And so everybody, or many people, are being impacted by the madness of King Donald. And it's going to take some courageous energy
Mm-hmm.
that is infused with sonic vibration that
Yes,
lets folk know that you're going to be all right,
absolutely.
right? That you're going to be all right, that you're going to be protected, and go out there and do what our ancestors have been doing for hundreds and hundreds of years. This is a mighty beast that we're taking on, and it takes mightier and mightier energy than that beast has in order to cage that beast and allow, you know, the vibration, the energy, the consciousness, the power, the spirit that you all, you know, bring wherever you go to reign over this planet. So Free, you've been quiet too long, and I don't feel comfortable when you're quiet. So
Okay, well, let me at least give you all the address to the ETA Theater, okay?
okay, let's do that. Let's do that.
It is 7558 South Chicago Avenue in Chicago, Illinois.
Okay. Okay.
7558 South Chicago Avenue, and that's the ETA Creative Arts Foundation Theater. And I also wanted to say, I wanted to thank Spin Abo for inviting us to be a part of the listening room on Friday. Yeah, he's the reason why we're going to be there on Friday. So thank you.
Okay, in Brentwood. Very good. Very good.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, it sounds to me like you all are going to have a very, very full weekend.
Yeah.
Friday performing together, Saturday celebrating your birthday, yeah, Ayanna, Free's birthday, and then going to Chicago celebrating Ayanna's daddy's birthday, and then doing the performance and celebrating the love that you're going to receive from folks. Because I'm telling you this right now, the folk who come to your performance and who see what you have to offer and feel what you have to offer at the same time they're dealing with this oppression that's coming from the White House. That convergence of energy is going to make something very special happen at that event. And that energy is going to move through Chicago long after you're going. I can't help but feel that your daddy's presence
Wow.
is going to make itself shown in multiple ways,
Come
and
on.
it's going to energize the people who are there, and he's going to show up and the people are going to show out, right?
I believe that.
I see that. I
Woo,
feel
I
that.
felt that.
And that's how the spirit works, you know?
It works.
And
That's
can
how
I
the
also
spirit
just
works.
say, we
Yeah.
want to thank you for all the work that you do
Yes,
and the
we do.
continuum of our history, herstory, our story, and just thank you. It's such a
Yes, we
blessing
do. Such
to
a
always
blessing.
be in your presence.
Woo!
Yeah.
Well, you know, as I think about what I do, I think about, you know, where I came from. And that makes me think about Chicago. When I think about all of the powerful souls that came out of Chicago, Lauren Cress Love came out of Chicago, Frances Cress Welsing came out of Chicago, Ida B. Wells, you know, Dick Gregory. And there's definitely something about Chicago, whether it's in the
About Chicago.
water, whether it's proximity to the lake. There's some powerful energy that has always come out of Chicago and has impacted the world. Sun Ra spent time in Chicago. Earth, Wind, and Fire, Maurice White, you know, cultivated his chops in Chicago. So you all are going to be welcome with open arms, open and loving arms. I know that. I feel that. I claim that. You're going to bring the DC love that is so special to Chicago. There's going to be this mixing. There's going to be this blend. And
Yes.
something powerful is going to happen. And you two will be the conduits
Mm.
through which that power and energy will flow. I see that. I'm claiming that. I know that. And I want you to give me a firsthand report when you get back.
You know we will.
Ashe.
You know we will.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
So once again, as we wrap up, once again, give folk details for this weekend and where they can see you and hear you.
They can see us at Libra Love at the Brentwood Arts Exchange in Brentwood, Maryland. That's 3901 Rhode Island Avenue, Brentwood, Maryland. And they can they can Google Listening Room Presents Ayanna Gregory and Free BenJamin, or they can simply show up at the door. And we are waiting for you with open arms.
Excellent.
Yes.
And Chicago?
In Chicago, Sunday, October 12th, we'll be in Chicago. I'll be doing my play Daughter of the Struggle at the ETA Creative Arts Foundation, which is at 7558 South Chicago Avenue, Chicago, Illinois. And the website to get tickets, ETA Creative Arts, arts plural, etacreativearts.org. The show is at 3 o'clock on Sunday, on Daddy's birthday.
Good, good. Well, I want to thank you two so much for being here. It was a pleasure. And I want to wish you successful performances in DC on Friday and Chicago on Sunday. Free, I want you to have a wonderful birthday, and I hope you get a chance to eat at one of those vegetarian restaurants in Chicago that you've been asking folk for details about, and give me a report so I can check them out when I get back home at some point in the near future. And well, yeah, well, thank you all so much, and continue the healing, continue the vibration, continue spreading the love, because we need it now more than ever. So I love y'all, and I appreciate
it. Thank you, Karan. We
life.
love you to life.
Thank you, Bob.
In
yes,
perpetuity.
Indeed.
Always.
Yes, indeed. So this is the Browder File Show, and we're going to bring you some other programs throughout this month. Next week, we're going to have two guests on to commemorate the 30th anniversary of the Million Man March. And I'm planning to have, to help us wrap up the month of October, two different guests on the last 2 weekends talk about mental health, spiritual health, and specific ways that you can transform your consciousness. And then in November, I'm having another female physician who is also a healer, who deals with natural medicine and holistic medicine. So because we are negotiating some very troubling and challenging times, it's critically important that we have our minds, our bodies, our hearts, and our soul healed and in alignment, so that we can be the best vessels through which the ancestors, who are always around us, always waiting for vehicles to express themselves through, can do their best work. That's who we are, and that's what we do. And so this is Tony Browder inviting you to join us next week. And we always leave with Maurice White intoning a message, reminding us, no matter how difficult times may be, no matter how challenging things may be in your personal life, that the key is to love yourself, to love you, to unearth all the beautiful things around you, the beauty and the birds and the trees. And as Maurice says, if there ain't no beauty, you got to make some beauty. It's there. And when you know how to affirm it, when you know how to amplify it, when you know how to magnify it, it transcends you and every soul that you touch. So this is Tony Browder thanking you for listening, tuning in, watching this edition of the Browder File Show. And I will see you all very, very soon. So Khalil, take us out with Maurice White and Earth, Wind, and Fire. And I'll see you all next week. Peace.